Okay, here we go. This has been a request since I did my video of the Roto Brush in After Effects, why it sucks. And with the latest versions, I've been getting comments of people asking me, what about the Roto Brush 2 in the latest version of After Effects? You should do that. How does that work? Well, not having been a huge fan of the Roto Brush, I've been avoiding it, but I thought I should probably give it a try. Now that we're doing rotoscoping in my VFX class currently, I thought I would just sort of show how this works. And so I've brought here in some footage to roto, and this would be a good example of footage you might need to roto. You can see someone that's actually shot in a natural background with no green screen. So if you needed to comp in some kind of CG elements behind the figure, you would need a rotoscope. This really is exactly the type of reasoning that Gareth Edwards, director of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, used. And he didn't want to do a lot of blue screen or green screen shooting. He wanted to shoot in natural light with natural backgrounds as much as possible to get a more realistic look. And because of that, you would need more rotoscoping artists as compared to just, say, comping artists. So thankfully, with his view of doing that, that's why they needed a lot more roto artists on Rogue One, and that's how I got brought in. So anyway, this is a pretty good example. It's actually pretty large here. You can see it's close to 4K wide, and I did reduce the frame rate down to 23.9 frames a second. So we're working with fewer frames because that's what you want to do anyway. So we've got the footage in here, made a composition, and really it's just time to get this new Roto Brush and try it out. Now, of course, we have to double click on the layer and actually get into the footage and do our roto brushing, if you will. So I'm on frame 1 here, and I've got the Roto Brush, and I'll just do the usual thing that it says you need to do is come down here and draw in the areas that you want to keep. Okay, there we go. And I'll be zooming in quite a bit because we have this sort of stuff happening, which is understandable. So of course we hold down Option or Alt on a PC and then sort of draw out the parts that we don't want. And really what you're looking for here, like in the previous version, is on your very first frame you want to do the best job possible to really get it very, very accurate. So it's going to use that to draw the additional frames. Now here's my brush, and unlike other brushes, if we want to change the size, you can. You take the Command key or Control key on the PC, and you drag, and you can change the size of that brush there. And so I will do that, and then pull out a little bit there. So okay, we're looking kind of good there. I'll see if I can pull out a little bit more. There is a little hint right here where I can tell there's some background, and then there's this paper. So let's see what I can do there, again, by trying to remove some of this. Okay, that didn't quite work. Let me put that part in and see if I can remove this part right here. Okay, that's pretty good. So I'll zoom out and kind of keep going. So as I said, this is the frame where you're doing really the most work, and I can give myself a little more space to work with since I just have this layer here. There we go. So I'll make the brush a little bigger. Again, Command on the Mac, Control on the PC, click and drag, and draw along, right here to add stuff in. Okay, that didn't work, so we'll have to remove this right along here. Okay, that's a little better. Now, of course, we have some problems with that. I'll have to come back to that right there. But let's see if we can just sort of quickly, mock in the rest of the figure there. Okay, that's pretty good. Come down here. Again, still on this first frame. Oh, I guess I was holding down a key there. Didn't need to do that. Okay, let's get a little more of that. Let's get that in there. Okay. Zoom in over here. And I'll cut out this background right there. Got some problems right there. Let me reduce the size, remove that, That's pretty good. Okay, now we have to add this right here. Okay, remove that. Okay, can we add along there? All right, looking good. Now, I'm going to start this off by saying that I am skeptical as a roto artist. I'm skeptical really in the practical, or should I say the professional. Come on here, guys, let's get that in. The professional application of this, and as we get in here, I think I'll be able to show you why. Let's see. We're going to zoom out and see what we have going on here. Okay, so I might want this table in there. That's good. Let's bring that in there. That's pretty good right there. Come down here like that. All that's pretty good. So I'm going to zoom in and see if I can smooth out this edge. Give that a better edge along there. Okay, go there. I don't know how that's going to work. Now, when you're rotoing, usually you don't need, it depends on what's going on and what your final comp needs are, but usually you don't need every single edge of your rotoscope here. You just want to spend the most time on what's going to be interacting with whatever your background is that you're comping in. So, of course, with hair, we have a particular problem. And it's one thing, of course, we have then, if we click on the Roto Brush, we have the Refine Edge tool. And I can say this is one tool that I kind of like. Every artist who's had to roto hair, even in a dedicated roto program, which would do it better than After Effects, has tried to find ways to get around it, or to simplify it. The whole rotoing hair can just be a big pain, as we can all kind of figure out. And so this Refine Edge, I kind of like this idea. I can see some application in this rather than having to really roto hair, and using just this area here. We've got some stuff going on here, so I'm going to see if I can do that right in there. Okay, that's pretty good, I guess. All right, so we've got our first frame, I think, pretty much set. So we'll zoom out there, and you can view several things here. Just to kind of show you this, you've got these buttons here for the various modes. There's the X-ray mode, which what that does is actually shows you pretty much a matte of what the Refine Edge tool is going to give you, and that's much softer, more complicated edge than just usual roto shapes. So there's your X-ray tool. We've got this that actually shows you your matte. And as I look at this, there's a problem right there, and that's why these buttons are so helpful. So I'm going to turn this one off and just kind of do with my Refine Edge, kind of try to see if I can fix that right there a little bit. Okay, there's some green happening there. I wonder if I can just get my Roto Brush and try and remove some of that. Ugh, okay, now I've got to get the Refine Edge and try and paint some of that back in. Alright, so let's take a look at the matte. Okay, that's better. For sure about that. Now, this is the reason that I'm really skeptical about this tool. Is I look at this edge right there. Let's see what I get. Let's see if they can fix that up. I mean, the Refine Edge tool doing stuff like hair, if I don't have a great color I can key out of or extract out of, if there's enough contrast, I mean, that can be pretty good right there. But this edge here really bothers me. So let's take a look here. We've got, this is our kind of our standard view where you see the lines around it for your roto shapes. And then you've got this overlay view, which is kind of like the quick mask view in Photoshop. And this is something that goes back to the days of production by hand for printing, and this simulates Rubylith. So look that one up. That's a good little history lesson there. And of course, you can change the color and the opacity of this overlay here. We'll just kind of keep it with that. And now that we've got this and go along here, we can kind of start playing it through. And so I've got this render button on. And yeah, let's just kind of go along here. And I've hit my space bar, and there we can see, some stuff happening. So it is, sort of, rendering it here. Let's kind of keep going, and we want to see what this looks like. Hopefully this won't be too excruciating, but I can see the frames being rendered here as it goes along. And oh, hold on here, I forgot something. Sorry about that. Let's go back home and go to the first frame, and let's take a look at these controls. There's our version 2, and the version 1 is classic. That's the one that I say sucks, and I still stand by that. But I forgot, for some reason, the quality comes here as standard. Well, we want best, not standard, to see how good this can be. So let's go to best. There we go. And the whole idea is that it's using some type of AI, I guess, to try and roto and figure out frame to frame. So it's not going to be Terminator and some type of AI like that controls our military, that's going to get us and destroy humanity in the end. It might be might be Adobe and all the AI they're creating with Photoshop and their current programs. So now let's go through this with our quality on best, and see kind of how this goes here as we're going along. I come down here. Okay, let's keep going here. So that was actually an interesting comparison. Now I don't have the greatest machine that I'm working on here for this, and then of course as I'm doing the screen recording, that's probably not going to help the performance. But you can see a comparison to how long it's taking with the best quality versus the standard. So we do have taken a good bit more time, and I can see the frames advancing right here. And we've got a good chunk of footage here, 16 seconds. And quite often, depending upon the visual effects or production studio you might be a part of, you're not really doing big, huge, long sequences. It's very common for After Effects shots given to a particular artist to be little chunks, just kind of a few seconds. It's not uncommon at all. So, we're not going to worry about seeing how long we can go here. I'm thinking, maybe up to 1 second, and we'll see how that goes. And so there's a bit of an advance right there. But you can see that the best does take significantly longer to do, which I guess you would expect. But again, that's something that, it's kind of good to see that comparison. So we'll kind of wait a few more minutes here and see how this is looking. Okay, so we've got to about 1 second, and it's good I didn't use that 29.9 frames per second clip this was initially. So we'll stop this, and as we play along, we kind of see what it's doing. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look there. If I go to now, I'm going to click the freeze button, and so that's gonna. The idea is you would do that when you're done, so that it's not continuing to kind of redraw each time. And anyway, so you kind of do that as when you feel like you're done. Let me stop that here, because if I want to look at the map that it's created, I'm going to zoom in here. And again, I might like that edge here, but this edge is really kind of bothering me. But I want to see kind of how this matte animates as I go along here. There we go. Okay, so let's go back to this view here. Going to unfreeze that. and go back to home, and then see what kind of things I need to look at here. Okay, so this kind of thing is going to be a bit of a problem as I advance one frame, and I'm hoping this is not going to be too difficult to sit through here. There we go. I'm going to make my brush smaller, and I've got to remove this a little bit here. Now the truth is that you know, this whoa, okay, don't want that. We want the Roto Brush tool. There we go. So the truth is that it's possible this little area here might not be a problem. Again, if your composited element isn't going to, you know, come along right here, then you're not going to want to spend much time doing this. But as I'm going along here, I want to make this little hole. I'm advancing a frame to kind of see how that works. And you know, again, it's not really liking this area. There we go. It keeps wanting to sort of get rid of this little hole, which is, you know, not too surprising. So I can see right here, I would have to kind of manually fill in each hole here. There we go. Yeah, it's for some reason, even though I've drawn this shape, I would hope that, you know, the whatever engine it's using could sort of see that's there and kind of goes from frame to frame. That's, you know, not exactly working. So I'm coming here to try and fix that a little bit. Okay, that's not quite right. Let me add that there. Pull that down there. So you can see that with a lot of roto, there's a good bit of decision making that has to be done. And go back to home, and my thought here is just that, you know, the human element to decide what you're going to keep and what you're going to get rid of, it's hard to take that job off to whatever sort of AI you're working with here. So I'm seeing this bit kind of, you know, not being really close to the edge, even on that next frame, the first frame after you know, the initial frame here. It looks like this line is just not quite keeping really close and accurate here. See, little stuff like that. And if you didn't have any comped element that was looking a little better over here, we're losing some stuff here. If you didn't really have any comped element that was going to go over that part, then I guess you could say, well, that's, you know, that's okay. But if you did have a comped element that was going here right over her shoulder, and that's, you know, not unlikely. Oh, well, that was bad. Let's undo that. Can I do that? There we go. Yeah, it kind of took out the whole shoulder here. So I guess if I'm really trying to get a good line on that edge of the shoulder, it's going to take out too much. So again, advance a frame, and you can see that you know, the movement's looking good, but for some reason, I would think there should be enough information that it should figure out. You know, that's a decent amount of contrast. I mean, you could even probably extract some of this along here, but if I'm reading this line correctly, it's just not following that edge. Oh, I lost a little bit there. Let's put that back in. It's just not following this edge very well. So I'll do a bit more there. Okay. And interestingly enough, it's doing a better job on this edge, it appears. So we've got, you know, a little bit of stuff happening here. There we go. And doesn't quite want to get this little bit in here. All right. So again, I'm just kind of trying to be, you know, really exacting here, not knowing, for example, where I would need to have the mats and what's going to get comped in behind. Because if I knew that, I could perhaps, you know, save some time and be a little bit better with it, and ignore the parts that aren't going to be that important. And you know, oh, that's not good. Yeah, it's interesting, if I get this too close to that edge, it drops out the whole arm there. That's interesting. And the way this line's popping out here bothers me a bit. Oh, lost that one. Yeah, as I'm trying to make that what I think should look better, maybe I should do little bits there. There we go. Anyway, same sort of thing here, like that. Now, so the using the tool is sort of okay. If I just kind of jump ahead here, I'm just kind of going frame by frame. I'll zoom out. If I go frame by frame, refine edge propagating 1 of 3. Yeah, the refine edge, it takes a while there. So if I move out here, move out here, anyway, you can see the process there, right? You can certainly see that process. And so we go back. We'll just sort of take a look at this again here. Again, I'm hoping that these edges are gonna work out okay. You can see the areas it's having problems with that I have to kind of go in and fix by hand. So perhaps the most useful thing I could see would be for stuff like hair, and you might get keep some nice hair detail in there that it would be hard to roto. But we'll let it do its thing here. We don't need to do too much. I mean, who wants to sit here and watch it crunch through every frame? So, that being said, let's freeze these frames here. And probably the better thing would have been to take this clip and really kind of trim it down to where it's not, not really that long. So I'm looking at this stuff here again. This is showing me what that refined edge is looking like right there. I especially like seeing it right there. This might be some of the more important parts. Although there's enough contrast between the hair and this background being so bright, you could probably extract that out. And as a roto artist, if there was ever an opportunity to, instead of roto the hair, if there was enough contrast to extract it out, I would ask the composite artist, hey, I'm doing this shot, look at the hair there, I think there's enough contrast, can you just extract that out or key that out? And more often than not, they would say, yeah, we can do that. So you want to cut down on the time that you have to work on stuff, as much as possible, especially in a production environment. Everything is fast, if they want to get stuff done. So we're seeing all this. Obviously, we don't want to freeze, 397 frames. But I'll stop this here. And we'll just go back into our main composition. There we go. So here's the main composition, and we can see the end result of this. I'm just zoom in and take a look. So this type of thing is what I'm talking about. That's, the hair might be able to live with that. This edge, though, it just is not working. So we'll look at a few things here. We have a shift edge. And so let's see if I can, render this and kind of see if there's much chatter going on, because that's one thing that is really kind of the big problem, that the death for roto is if there's edge chatter. So if I just come up here to 1 second, okay, there we go. So now we see where I stopped the freezing. All right, so let's look at that. It looks like there's a decent amount of chatter going along there, and you can see where I had to cut out this little bit here. And if that's hair, maybe you could leave that in, so maybe you don't have to roto that out at all. But there's a lot of stuff going on here. This just really wouldn't work for any type of professional roto situation. So let's go back to home, and let's try a few of the controls here, right? So first of all, shift edge. As I'm seeing a decent amount of this right here, I'm going to shift that edge in. Remember that if you're doing roto, you always want to roto to the last opaque pixel. And this is giving me far beyond the outside. So I'm going to see if I can shift that edge and give it a negative number and see how far in that goes. I'm not seeing much happen here. Let's see if I really crank it up. We see something happen. Okay, I see something happening there, but look how blocky that's going. So I think I need to feather it. It comes with some feather on already, so I'm going to feather that a bit more. And we saw some chatter, so let's reduce some chatter there along the edge. And we have a contrast, shift edge, refine edge, smooth. I think I really need to smooth that. So can we kind of smooth that there? We have the Roto Brush matte and we have edge matte. So I wonder if I really want to concentrate on this right here. Let me shift that edge in, see if that makes a better difference. It's looking a little bit better already, as I really have to do things like a lot of smoothing. And I think I might take these controls back to their default. I'll just kind of experiment here. The feather was like 5. All right. And I definitely want to reduce the chatter. So I'm going to try and smooth it here and then give it some feather here and shift the edge here. Shift the edge a bit more there. Get a better looking edge, hopefully. Use motion blur. I mean, that's always a good idea. I doubt we have a whole lot with her. She's not moving a whole lot, but that's always kind of a nice thing there. Decontaminate edge colors. I'm seeing some stuff happen here, so we might definitely want to do that right there. So let's, what do we have here in decontamination? Interesting. So we have a lot of new controls here. There we go. A lot of new controls with this. And if we just kind of play this through, let's just see what these frames look like. As you know, I'm trying to fix the problems that I see with with the adjustments here that we have. And because I didn't do a whole lot of the freezing to kind of finalize the roto there while in the Roto Brush, we're getting up to this, not quite to this 1 second mark. I think it's gonna, not have, there we go. Let's take a look there. All right. So as I'm seeing this kind of stuff happen, I look along this edge, we can see just a lot of these colors coming through because the Roto Brush didn't give me a good edge here. It left too much of that background. The lines aren't very accurate. I mean, see that kind of stuff happening there? And anytime I tried to draw in closer to kind of cut out this background edge, it would tend to get rid of the whole arm here. So that's sort of a problem. I mean, this kind of edge here just would not work at all. I mean, that would get kicked back in half a second with your supervisor looking at it. And look at the edge of this table here, where it should be a pretty simple thing. And you could even, with most roto programs, you could build one shape and then track it and you're done. Less work than what you'd have with the Roto Brush. But look at this terrible rough edge that it gives me. Again, I'm trying to smooth things quite a bit. And, can I shift that edge on both levels, the Roto Brush matte and the edge matte? How much can I shift that edge in? And yeah, again, these are just not good lines. So if I'm looking at the alpha here, that's not a good roto edge at all. That would never work in any kind of professional setting. If you want stuff caught behind it, you would see that edge right away. Now, maybe in some cases the hair, I mean, that looks pretty good right there. Let me see what it looks like with my background. and a lot of white still in there. So yeah, see how these, I'm really bothered by the fact that the Roto Brush still gives you this kind of like aliased edge, where it's really stair-steppy. And you want your roto lines to be smooth and to be nice and smooth and consistent. So the thing about the Roto Brush, even version 2, it might be a nice idea to really comp something in quickly, right? Hey, we've got, you know, an initial render. Let's pop it in and see how it's working. Maybe do some color corrections. Is the position working? That kind of stuff. But for a professional setting, like, hey, I want to do professional roto and have a real nice, believable comp with really good edges, and even edges where you can take the matte and use it to maybe make some kind of edge bloom along here for the light as you're comping something in there, or light wrap. This isn't going to cut it. Sorry, Adobe, and everyone that says this is really great. It's great for something that is fairly quick and doesn't require a huge amount of expertise, but it's just not professional quality. You're not going to get the roto you need with stuff like this. So I mean, I've tried to bone up on this and learn what all the controls do and learn how to work it, and I think I'm doing it the way it's supposed to be done. And the end result is you just don't get good quality edges. And this should be a fairly straightforward roto project here, but you just don't get professional matte quality from the Roto Brush, not even version 2. So after all is said and done, I have to say, does it still suck? And the answer is yes, at least in a professional capacity.